Hey everybody, I'm Steve Danino with Century 21 Connect Realty, and today I just want to talk a little bit about baseball. I know it's December, but I can always talk about baseball, especially old-time baseball. I'm a huge fan. People that don't know me don't know this, obviously, but I am a huge baseball fan. I remember as a kid, I would play baseball like most kids. I would play baseball spring and summer and into the fall. And when winter came, and up in New York, it's too cold or snowy to be playing baseball, but I would be reading about baseball. I was always a huge fan of the early game of baseball. And when I say early, I mean really early, like 19th century, early 20th century. I found it fascinating. My grandfather and I would have conversations. He was a huge fan of baseball, so I think that kind of whetted my appetite. But I always found that period just fascinating in baseball history, and it was filled with so many real colorful characters, people like Ty Cobb and Honus Wagner, Napoleon Lajoie, Cy Young, a whole bunch of others. But there was really none as colorful or as weird as a pitcher named Rube Waddell. So what happened is, what brings him to mind is my wife recently got me this book, actually, on Rube Waddell, biography of him that came out a few years ago, and I'm looking forward to reading it. But I knew a few things about him already, and he was just he was quite a character. He when he is known, and he's not known to too many people nowadays, but what is known is they often say, oh, he chased fire trucks. Rube Waddell chased fire trucks, and that's kind of half true. He did. He would be pitching a game, and all of a sudden he'd hear a fire truck or a fire wagon at the time, because they were horse-drawn. He would hear one going by, and he's out of his uniform and off the field and running after the fire truck, but not chasing the truck. He's just following the truck to where the fire is so he could help out. So that was one thing about him. The other thing about him was he was unfortunately a heavy drinker, which was not a rare thing in those days. Ball players were known for being real carousers, heavy drinkers. Unlike today's players, they didn't make a lot of money. Most of them came from mill towns or factories or farms. So they were, they were pretty rough and ready fellas. And Waddell was, no exception. But he was an exception in a lot of the other things that he did. Other than chasing the fire truck, he was known for wrestling alligators. On days he was pitching, usually nobody knew where he was, so they'd have to look all over the place for him. And one time he was in the stands selling hot dogs. Another time he was under the stands playing marbles with the neighborhood kids. He was really like a big kid who drank a lot. One of my favorite stories about Waddell is about the manager of an opposing team knew of Rube's weakness for puppies. He just would melt when he saw a puppy. So the manager before the game, and Rube was supposed to pitch that game, the manager before the game shows Rube this puppy. And he says, you know what? After the game, I'll give you the puppy. Well, he knew that that was just going to break Rube's concentration. Rube couldn't go through the game without thinking of that little puppy. He wants that puppy. He fell apart. He didn't do well that day. So the trick was to distract him, because he was such a great pitcher. Another story was the same manager would bring toy snakes or whatever it was and put it on the field and say, hey, Rube, look at that. And Waddell was, again, this big child, and he would be so distracted by the toy snake that he wasn't focusing on the batter. So there was a lot of head games that you could play with him. But again, he was a great pitcher, early member of the Hall of Fame, well-deserved. He led his league in strikeouts 6 times. And unfortunately, he passed away early. I think he was about 38 when he died. He died of tuberculosis, which he developed after he had developed pneumonia, helping breach a flood. There was a flood in Texas, and he was piling sandbags to stop the floodwaters, and he's in this freezing water, and he developed pneumonia and eventually tuberculosis, and he died in 1914. He's kind of like a lot of the celebrities of the day. Time passes, and his name is sort of fading into the distance. But there is this band out of New Orleans, a jazz band out of New Orleans, and they named themselves Rube Waddell, and they play a wild, crazy sort of jazz, so it's a perfect name. And I'm glad to hear that this band has that name, Rube Waddell. So that's just a little bit of one of my passions I wanted to share with you. And thank you again for indulging me. And I will speak to you soon. Bye-bye.